Coming to part 5, the financial part. We're still in the walkthrough of the marketing plan, how to write a marketing plan as part of marketing management, marketing plan, marketing planning, how to do marketing planning, how to write a marketing plan. I'm your lecturer, Thorsten Strauss, and my information is at the end of this presentation. Now we're looking at the 7 parts from introduction, analysis, strategic part, execution, and now we're entering into the financial part. We have just looked at how to execute the goals we have set and how to get from where we are in the analysis to where we want to be via the execution, and the financial part is really the measurement of how much does it take and how long does it take actually, and how much do we get back. So what type of measurements do we actually have? And I will not do this, I will not get into the details of the financial part. I just wanted to show you this chart here on the right. Here you see a break-even chart, and that is a very common type of chart to have in a marketing plan. For a startup, you also have a burn rate type of how long does it last, how much does it take to get it off the ground type of calculation. And here you have fixed cost, variable cost, and these are normally broken down into types of fixed cost, type of variable costs, what type of revenues are you getting and when, what type of profits are you generating then, what's your total cost, and that way you can see that here over time you break even, which is actually here. This is profit, the pink line, and that is a break even. You would generate a chart like this. How to read it? So you have fixed cost, obviously that remains fixed, so that's the red line. You have variable cost, that's the green line. If you add this part here plus this part, the variable cost, you get to the blue line, that is total cost, that is fixed cost plus the green line on top. So we have then total cost, this is the revenue. It starts slow and it goes up at a higher rate than cost, otherwise we will never break even, and this would be a very bad business. So then as soon as sometime it crosses total cost, that means total revenue and total cost are equal, and that is when profit is 0, and that's when there's a break-even point. Yeah. Other things that you can utilize is the cash flow of the business, and that is basically this table here, a more detailed cash flow. You do a break-even analysis and table. You do at the time to break even, you can calculate that. You can calculate net present value. That is basically all future payments discounted to the present. Is that number positive, then you make money. If it is not positive, then you don't make money. And the rate of return you utilize, that's very key that you use the right rate here to discount the money. Then you have return on investment, that's a very common and also old measure, ROI. Then you have the IRR, internal rate of return, meaning how much money are you making internally given your interest and internal rates, and you compare it to the weighted average cost of capital. That is basically how much does capital cost you, because nothing is for free. Are you surpassing the average cost of capital in your rate of returns, or are you actually below the average rate of capital? If your average rate of capital is 10%, you need to be 10 or higher. Then you can do a sensitivity analysis, and that is really sophisticated, meaning if you change some of these facts and assumptions, how wildly do your results then change? Is a little bit of change in interest rate going to have a huge impact? Is it a little bit of change in revenue or cost structure having a huge impact or not huge impact? So that's also often very nice to know, because if you have a low sensitivity towards cost or towards some changing factors, then when you get challenged on these types of factors, you can respond that even though costs might be 5% more, that would only mean a delay of a month or 2 in the break-even period. Those types of scenarios are very common to have in your mind when you present in front of the board or an investment group. I'm also starting part 6 now because these parts are small. So now we're entering part 6, that's the risk part. The risk part is actually that in itself, against risk management and estimation, is very sophisticated science. In this exercise, what I want you to do, I want you to at least, that's a very minimum, think about 2 dimensions. That is the likelihood something happens, not likely, lowly likely, moderate, high, and expected. So you have a measure from 1 to 5, and then you have the consequences, again, from 1 to 5, from forget it, nobody cares about that one. Let's say, I don't know, if you lose a bus route, but that's not a problem because you have a train station nearby and there's taxi service and things like that. That is maybe not so much of an impact to your business than an extreme impact. Let's say the entire management team is gone, or God forbid an accident happens and people are gone and died, or some other type of disaster. Suppliers go bankrupt are usually good scenarios to think about. What you do is you score these risks, and then you basically, the more you get down here, you see it, I covered this is from a marketing plan. This is light risk, light impact, and then it goes more and more deep. That's when you really need to start thinking, what type of activity or response will you do? What is the appropriate thing to plan here for? The major shifts in the environment and drastic changes in the micro or macro environment, that's usually what we're looking for, force of nature. It's not about really the management or minor things, because those would be addressed within the execution and implementation plan. It's not if somebody doesn't reach an objective, that is not part of a risk matrix. The risk matrix is, for example, for a computer manufacturer, what happens if Dell goes bankrupt, what happens if Intel goes bankrupt, or if Intel has an explosion in a factory and cannot deliver anymore. How will you migrate this risk, and how will you prepare for that? So that's the risk matrix, and that brings us to the last part, which is part 7, and that is the additional part. We already talked about it. What to include in the additional part, that is all data that is needed, but it's too big to be put into the text. Let's say you have a huge, beautiful, large map of the population of Belgium and the location density. That would be an excellent data source to talk about where to put a retail store or which markets or cities to focus on. You can put that one pager in the appendix and say, I focus on Brussels, Antwerp, and another city because of population density. See appendix and figure so and so. Make sure they are all labeled with figures so that it is easy to be found. The data needs to be referred to within the text, so that they don't not stand alone. And that is the end of the part. How to contact me? You can contact me on LinkedIn under Thorsten Strauss. I am part of OpenLink, so you can contact me for free. You can find me on Twitter to read some of my marketing feeds, actually, of Twitter. I post them there, as well as on LinkedIn. You can contact me at the University of Antwerpen, Thorsten.Strauss at uantwerpen.be, uantwerpen one word, or under Thorsten.Strauss at howtomkt for market, howtomkt.com. What is my background a little bit? Actually, my tagline is I have 3 worlds experience, meaning highlighting the unique background that I have worked as a marketeer in an industrial setting, including on executive level as part of management. I have worked as consultant, or work as consultant still under projects, and I work as lecturer. So combining 3 different types of perspectives on marketing and the challenges of marketing, which is, I think, unique. Then I am German born, educated in the United States, and educated at Copenhagen Business School with an MBA. I worked and lived in the United States for 8 years. I worked and lived in Europe for 20 something years, 22 years. I worked and lived, not lived, but I worked in the Middle East for over a year very extensively. And I also have done some business and experience in Asia, exposure there with some of the studies at Tsinghua University, the Harvard of China, as well as, of course, production units and suppliers in Asia. I was a product manager in the start of my career, and then marketing manager and global marketing director. I led several projects, numerous projects actually. The three most relevant for this class would be a market penetration project, a geographic expansion project, and a global portfolio optimization project. So I'm quite familiar with project planning, and my expertise and core competence is actually strategic planning, strategic process management, and ownership.